Beep beep. What is up, ninjas? My name is Sam World and I make music production and sound design videos for dance music here on YouTube. Now in today's video I wanted to discuss an effect, a tool that really doesn't get much love from us bedroom producers. Now this tool is usually used by a lot of recording engineers, let's say. I don't even know if that's the right term, but essentially these guys record stuff, and when they're recording they might get some noise in the background or something that they might want to tame or remove from a recording completely. Instead of automating the volume knob, etc., we utilize a gate for that. So for instance here, we have this voice that I've recorded, and in that voice you're going to hear my voice and noise. And the noise is the part that I want to remove. So without a gate, it's going to sound like this. This is a test. Shh. This is a test. Shh. Now let's assume that shh is there organically, not by me. And I have this and I'm like, you know what, that sounds really dirty. It doesn't have character to the track, even though some of the lo-fi guys think it does, but you know what I'm saying, just a little. All right, so we're gonna use the gate, and the way a gate works is pretty simple. We're gonna have my threshold, and this threshold has to be hit in order for the sound to be allowed out. When it's not hit, we're gonna have a negative 40 dB gain reduction or lower the volume by that amount, let's say. So from here, if I have it really high up, you can't hear the sound. You can barely hear it because, again, the floor is at 40. If I put this to zip, then it's going to shut off completely. Now, from here, I can lower it down. This is a test. This is a test. This is a test. This is a test. Okay, now as you can see there, some of the shoo came out because it was louder than the first one. But again, that's what a gate is going to be doing. It's going to allow the signal to come out. So it's obvious to see why a lot of music producers don't really go like, what can I use this for, other than maybe if I'm recording something or if my synth has a lot of noise, like a Korg MS-20 for say. So in this video, we're going to talk about the ways that you can utilize this to make your track sound cleaner, and again, just how to use gate creatively. As always, if you want to support the channel, guys, make sure to head over to evilsounds.com. The sounds used in this video will be in the Reverb Volume 4 coming out this Friday, so stay tuned for that. And with that being said, let's get straight into this. The first way to utilize a gate is to make your drum loops sound tight. Now, tightness is a subjective term. To some people, it might mean something completely different. But to me, it means that the drums are very raw, they're very short, and they're very punchy. So one of the things I'll see is people make tracks and they'll have their drum loops. And most of us will have a clap and open hat because that's as far as our rhythm vibes go. And then from there, we kind of tend to gravitate more toward drum loops to kind of get the idea going and find things that we might like. So here we have this drum loop that is going to sound like this. Now, this is, of course, subjective, but for me, I might be like, you know what, I like that, but I would like it to sound a lot tighter, and this is where a gate comes into play. Now, being able to use a gate as a music producer is going to open up the doors to utilizing even the most reverbest, drownest drum loops out there that you might find in Splice that you like. You just got to know how to use it. So for this, we're going to utilize the gate, and we're going to move the threshold down. Now with this here, now we have something that sounds like this. Now, of course, it's sounding a little chattery, and what that means is that you can hear like it's really not that organic. You can tell someone's like, you know, like fucking like a DJ up on main stage, just like ramming the fader up and down. Okay, but how can we make this more organic, make it feel like a real DJ, like James Hype style, you know what I mean? So how can we do it like that? So this is where all of these settings are going to come into play. The first one we have is the return, which is, you can kind of think of it as the threshold is going to allow the sound out, and the return is going to control when it closes. So that's where we have that. Okay, and then there's a term in here that says it's also considered hysteresis, but to me that just sounds like someone trying to be smart. But no, it's just going to be the when it shuts off. So we can use this to kind of get it to sound a little bit more organic. From there, we're going to have another very important setting, and that is going to be the floor and the release. Now, the release is going to determine how fast it takes for the gate to close. So think about it like this. If the DJ is doing this with the fader, how fast is he going back down? So if he goes up, how fast is he going down to shut it off? So if the release higher means slower, And then the lower the release, the more faster he's doing it. Okay. So from here, we might opt to have a higher release so that it doesn't sound like pure chopping like chef style. And then from here, we have the floor. Now the floor is going to be what the volume is reduced to. So if you have the floor at 0 dB, nothing's going to happen. But now from there, you can kind of bring it down. Now this is a very important tool because if I do this, the floor is going to go down to negative. So you want to kind of put it around 40 and up there. It definitely sounds like someone's sidechaining. So that's one way that we can utilize gates in a way that's going to make your track sound cleaner. Now, this is with drum loops. Now, from here, what else can we do with the drum loop? Well, the other thing we can do is we can grab a very dry loop and pretty much put it in a room without muddying it up with reverb. And this is a big problem with a lot of people. They put reverb on something and it sounds like crap. So how can we kind of have like a safety control and measure? Or let's assume that you just like a reverb a lot and you like it long, but you want to shorten it. Well, this is where this next technique comes into play. Okay, so we have here this drum loop. Very tight drum loop. Again, we already know what tight means. Now, I want to put it into a room, and let's say I find this reverb that I really like. So how can I do this? So we're going to utilize an audio effect rack on it to pretty much create sort of like a return. So we're going to have our reverb here. We'll call it RE chain. And then on there, I'm going to put the worst reverb you can possibly put on drums. And it's going to be like a hall that's really big. And it sounds like the lifeguard's about to start blowing the whistle to come save the drums because, you know, reverb water. Okay, so... You know, this is definitely when you first start out, you think it makes everything sound full. But let's assume you like it, right? So what can we do? Well, this is where a gate comes into play, as we can utilize the gate like Phil Collins did when he saw it coming at the end tonight or in the air tonight. So we're going to use the dynamics, use a gate. We're going to input the sidechain from this, and we're going to go into our same channel there. Pre-effects is the important thing. So number 5. I believe. Yep, number 5, and then pre-effect. So pretty much in this scenario, the threshold has to be hit by the signal coming in, not the sound itself. So what we're doing here with the reverb is just, again, we're going to shape it. And again, we want to make it sound a little bit more organic. So if you can hear that, it has a very tasteful sound. There is a bit of chattering going on, of course, with it, but you can kind of see how even with the worst possible reverb, we can get the drums to kind of fit nicely, even here. All we have to really do from here is just EQ it a bit because it is a bit messy, so we're going to kind of go in. Another cool way to use the gate is obviously to do gated reverb drums. Now this seems to work a lot more with like, you know, Pride snares and whatnot, but you can still use the same technique for claps. Let's assume you have a clap and you want to put some sort of reverb on it. And we're going to use the same audio effect rack we used for the other drum loop. Now if I take off the gate, we're going to have that. And let's assume we like the tone of that, but the problem is that we don't really want this to sound like, you know, again, lifeguard's coming, it's drowning. So then we can utilize a gate to shape the reverb to what we want. Again, sidechain and route it to itself. Pre-effect, so the clap is triggering it. And we can create this really tight, really nice reverb on the clap if that's what you're looking for. I would recommend this more for sounds that are a little bit more ear candy-ish, or maybe to accentuate the clap. For instance, you know, those are just some ideas to kind of utilize this, but it's pretty cool what you can do with a gate and reverb. Shaping your drums. Now, if you find yourself finding a lot of drums but you just don't like the way they sound, and it could be like essentially the dynamics of it, then you can utilize a gate to shape your drums. For instance, here we have an open hat, which I think is kind of already pretty good. So now what I can do with a gate is, let's assume that you're going more for a very raw sound, maybe Michael Bibi-ish, or you just want the open hat to be very tight. Well, we can utilize a gate for this. Again, threshold to allow it out. By default, that's the sound that we're going to get, but from there we can utilize a return again. And our release. Our floor. And make the open hat just sound dynamically different. You can also use this for other drums like claps. Maybe you have some claps from packs where there's reverb on them that you don't want. Then you can utilize a gate to fix that. Another really cool thing to do with a gate is create the gate effect, or the trance gate, which is an effect where you can kind of have like, I think Armin van Buuren Kaya. Let me show you the way. So let's assume we have this vocal. Just for fun's sake, I recorded myself, put Alter Boy, if you wonder how I made myself sound that way. I can use a gate before CLA vocals, of course, just not to get the gate with the reverb. But if you like that, then again, just put the gate in front. From there, obviously, we're just going to sidechain it and input a signal. So from there, you do want to utilize sort of like a ghost channel. So for this, let's utilize audio 8, and we'll just call it the gate ghost, whatever, misspell it. Okay, and we're just going to go with any sound that is going to be kind of like a perk or something cool. Let's go with that. And we're just going to zero it out, turn it on, of course. And let's say I want to do maybe like, who knows, 1/16th, right? Which that's not it. There we go. And I want to do a gate effect on my voice. Let's assume, yeah, we'll do this and just do that. Then I can create the effect, in essence, like sort of running an ARP on this. And this is the only reason why we want to do it is on a channel, because if it's a MIDI sort of like synth and whatnot, I can use an ARP for the same thing. From there, the gate will get that signal, which is the gate. And now just slow it. Okay, so obviously we can do 16s like that, but the other cool thing is we can kind of start to create like unique rhythms. Let's do that over here, where maybe with a normal gate you wouldn't be able to do that, or with an ARP. So then you can kind of start putting a bit of rhythmic interest into it. And that's the way we can kind of do that. And these are going to be some of the reasons why we would utilize a gate in our tech house productions. Now there's some parameters we didn't really discuss, but we'll get into them real quick. For instance, here we have a hold, and the hold is just going to tell the gate that you have to hold out for a certain amount of time before it ducks, or before you trigger the trance gate. For instance, here in the vocal, me show you the way, you're going to notice that it has to hold out, so you don't really hear the sharpness of it. But if I put it super low, me show you the way, it's just going to do it. From there, we do have an attack, and the attack is going to decide how fast the sound comes back in once the threshold is met. So for this, you might use it just in case you want like a fa fa fa. Show you the way. Running it at very low values, the attack will sometimes produce clicks, so just keep that in mind, as there's a very instant change that occurs. From there, we have a look ahead, which is going to tell pretty much the gate to pretty much start opening up 10 milliseconds before it's activated. So I'm assuming that the gate is going to hear this, and there's maybe some latency occurring with it, but it's going to open up before the gate, 10 milliseconds before it. So what that means is that, let's say you have a drum sample or something and you want to preserve the transient, then you would increase the look ahead. From there, you do have a flip, which just reverses what the gate does. And then from there, we talked about everything else. And then, of course, we have the sidechain feature, which helps so that instead of looking at at the signal that we have for, again, when it's going to be allowed to open up, you can input another signal. With that being said, guys, I'm sure there's other creative ways to utilize gates, but these are going to be the main ones that I use most of the time whenever I feel they're needed for any sort of track that I might be working on. With that being said, if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit like, leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next time for another video. Deceiver Volume 4 will be coming out at the end of this week, so check it out if you get the chance at evilsounds.com. Peace out.
Like the boy is mine.